Hi everybody, this is Tom, and today I'm making this video in my garage, slightly different environment to the normal office, but we're just stealing away a few minutes while I'm at home to get a video recorded. Hopefully this video is going to be helpful. It's all about how to become more confident in almost any situation. And I've developed these principles and these strategies through many years of experience, consciously trying to become more confident, also observing how other people become more confident, and doing lots of reading and research around the topic to see what strategies are kind of proven to be effective. So hopefully these are useful. First thing to say is confidence is a situation specific. So it's situation specific. So if I get any, for some reason, situation looks like oddly spelt there. So sorry for any spelling errors. Confidence is situation specific. So this might be you standing here. This is your character profile on a video game, looking at your different kind of confidence levels. So this could be like with your friends. So when you're hanging out with your friends, your confidence level may be really high. And then you might have confidence at work, might be low. Then you could have like public speaking, might be really low. You might hate public speaking. Then you might have, for example, when you're playing sports, and so you've got really high confidence. So your confidence varies depending on what situation you're in. However, importantly to note is that the confidence on one thing will spill over to confidence on the other things. So what you'll probably find is that really confident people are kind of confident across the board. There are things they're more confident on, but their confidence does tend to carry over between different things. So in this situation, if you were to increase your confidence in work, it would probably increase your confidence in public speaking a bit as well. So you do actually bring everything up by focusing on one thing and improving your confidence in that area. So that's the first thing. Second point to make about confidence is looking at why you might be unconfident. And there's a million reasons. I'm sure you can come up with a bunch of these, but we can start with saying fearing failure. Failure may have been ingrained in you as being a really bad thing as you were growing up, and being told you have to be perfect. So perfectionism you may have perfectionist traits which make you less confident because you're fearing failure. You've got your self-beliefs. You may lack support. You may have been conditioned. Somebody in your life may have told you that you're no good at a particular thing, and that's kind of ingrained this idea in your head. You know, somebody always told you, oh, you're no good at public speaking, you always embarrass yourself, and that's become like a deeply ingrained feature of your belief system. It could be that you are prone to comparison to others. So you look at other people and you say, wow, Karen is so good at public speaking and I'm not as good as her, so I'll never be any good and it's not worth me even trying. You know, she's just born like that. I'm a terrible public speaker. It's kind of an ingrained thing. And then, of course, like past setbacks. So you may have had a really bad experience where you're public speaking or whatever your unconfident situation is. Say you're unconfident amongst groups of people. You may have had an embarrassing situation that led to that unconfidence. So all of these things kind of feed into, there's also a central theme that we can address here, which is a lack of evidence to support your confidence. And if you have a lack of evidence, if you've got evidence of your competence in a situation and the fact that you are good at the thing and you can do it, and even if you can't do it, you're okay to fail, that destroys all of these things, that addresses all of these things. So, to move on to how do we address this? First thing when we're trying to get more confident at a thing is it's essential to start with a growth mindset. Oops. If you start from a position of saying, there's no way to change, we're just born like this, nothing can ever improve, nothing can be done, there's no way to grow, become better, become more confident. If you start from that position, you're doomed. You can't, it's almost a prerequisite for becoming more confident or addressing anything is to have a growth mindset, to believe that you can get better at things. The other thing is to have a future orientation. What do I mean by this? Well, having the idea that in the future, you can do things now that will create more opportunities, more learning, and better things in the future. And looking towards the future, not just thinking about how you feel right in this moment, but how you feel in the how things will be in the future, really helps you to make changes and build on things. So it's important to say confidence is not fixed. People might say, I'm not a confident person. I've never been a confident person. I'm very shy. I don't want to. I'm not outgoing. I can't do these things. This gives you the idea that it's a fixed trait. People are either born confident or they're not confident, and that's it. They're like that for life. That's not true. Confidence can be something that's changed and improved, and you can get more confident. You can change things. So you can increase your confidence. This is really important. And the future-oriented, the way to think about this is discomfort now leads to comfort later. And this is what I mean by future orientation. So the idea of having a future orientation and kind of, I suppose, an element of deferred gratification is that if you're uncomfortable now, that can lead to more comfort later on. And in fact, if you're comfortable now, that can lead to more discomfort later on. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. That leads us on to one principle: enter the discomfort zone. Okay. What do I mean by this? Well, let's draw a silly little diagram. We've got this circle here. This is your comfort zone. These are the things you're kind of happy with doing. You're comfortable, say at home in your own environment, with your set group of friends, with the certain people that you feel comfortable with the kind of job role that you're comfortable with, whatever it is, this routine, these things are all in your comfort zone. The next zone is your discomfort zone. So these are things that you don't do very often and you're a little bit uncomfortable with them. Talking to a stranger, starting up a conversation with someone you don't know, doing some public speaking in front of, say, friends, something that's uncomfortable for you. You're stepping out of your comfort zone in this situation. And then you've got this outer ring, which is kind of the overwhelm zone. So the overwhelm zone is when you go past the discomfort zone. This is the point where you just kind of panic and things are too much for you. So for example, for me, my comfort zone, I can quite comfortably speak in front of say 100 people, it wouldn't bother me too much. I would feel, the normal jitters, but I would feel excited about it. If I was speaking in front of up to, say, 500 or 1,000 people, that would probably be my discomfort zone. And then if I was speaking in front of, 2 million people all in front of me looking at me, I think I would feel a little bit overwhelmed. So that gives you the idea of you've got this comfort zone, you can comfortably do it, you're not worried about it. The discomfort zone, where you're, stepping out of your comfort zone and a little bit uneasy about it, but you feel comfortable to push yourself there. And then the overwhelm zone, which is just ridiculous. So, what do we do when we enter the discomfort zone? So you enter your discomfort zone. So you do something. Let's say you're really nervous about talking to somebody who's relatively famous, say, and you see them, you're introduced, and you get nervous and you're uncomfortable. So you're in a discomfort zone. When this happens, you kind of push yourself to be in the discomfort zone, do the thing, step up and give it your best shot. Then you have a result. Now, this result may be great success. You might do some public speaking. That might be your discomfort zone in front of 10 friends. So it's low stakes, but that's what you're uncomfortable with, but not overwhelmed with. And it might go really well. Great. That's super. Or it might go horribly wrong. You might become embarrassed. You might stutter over your words. You might lose your train of thought and have to call it off and run out of the room. So then you have a result. And then based on the result, you have reflection. So you reflect on it later on and say, how did that public speaking go? Well, obviously, if you have success, is a win. So, it reinforces you can do public speaking. That's great. Your comfort zone slowly increases over time. And if you have a failure, well, I would also try to count that as a win. And this might seem a bit odd, but what's happened is you've tried, you've failed, but you survived. Great. So let's say you're public speaking in front of 10 friends and it all goes horribly wrong. Then you rush out the room, you feel really embarrassed, you get upset, but then you come back in the room, your 10 friends say, I don't know what you're worried about. That was great. Try again. And so you actually, that's a win, because then you think to yourself, if you think this way, you think to yourself, I'm trying to get better at this thing. I tried it, and actually, these people are all still my friends. I failed, but it didn't go horribly wrong. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I've still got friends. It's all good. I'll try again. And so this way, what's happening is you're reinforcing that it's okay to try and it's okay to fail. Then you learn something from that, as we discussed. So what happens here is you do increase your competence. So if you try something, you go through this, basically this is a feedback loop. You try something, you fail or you succeed at it, but you learn something. And when you learn something, you increase your competence and you increase your confidence for the next time. And then what happens next time? You go back into your comfort zone. So when you do this, what's happening is you're expanding your comfort zone. And when you expand your comfort zone, your discomfort zone will also expand. And so you do this over and over again, and your comfort zone keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. One important thing here that we talked about is reframe failure as growth. This is really important, and this is something that in my life and in people that I've seen become incredibly confident, reframing failure as growth is a massively important and effective way to increase your confidence. So failures are learning opportunities. I'll give you an example. So when I was training as a GP, when I was going through the process of becoming a GP, you do a lot of work in general practice, see a lot of patients, and all GP trainees have this thing where they really fear getting a complaint. So you have this fear that a patient is going to walk out your room, complain to the practice and say that GP or that doctor didn't know what they were doing, they did a bad job, whatever. So you fear this complaint. And part of the reason is it's a fear of the unknown. You've never had a complaint before. You have this kind of perfectionist thing where you have to do a really good job. You think if you get a complaint, that's a big failure. And you worry that if you get a complaint, that might lead to some kind of investigation. And then somebody might strike you off and say, you're never allowed to be a doctor again. Your career is over, go and do something else. So there's this whole amount of fear around the failure of getting a complaint. When I was a GP trainee, my third year of GP training, I got a complaint. And the complaint had some valid points to it. A lot of the points weren't valid. But I saw it because I got this complaint, and then I kind of reflected on it, went through this process, saw it as a failure, but also as an opportunity to grow, took information from that complaint and thought about how I could have approached the situation differently. And actually, having got the complaint led to a lot more confidence because I reframed everything. So if I get complaints in the future, and any complaints I've got since then have been fantastic growth opportunities, learning opportunities, and have actually further increased my confidence to say it's okay if you do get a complaint. And we'll go on to something later which relates to this. So the other thing about failure is it shows you've pushed yourself. How do you know if you're pushing yourself kind of far enough that you're really, they talk about self-actualization. So you're actually pushing yourself enough to grow into your potential self, the best version of yourself. And if you fail, that's a really good indicator that you are on track. You are doing what you need to do to push yourself. And we'll talk about that in a bit more in a sec. And failure is the only route to growth. The way to look at this is more failures equals more progress. So let's have a look at this. So you got you here, and you've got your success here. Whatever that success looks like, whether that's getting in great shape, being more confident for social situations, talking in front of lots of people, singing in public, playing a sport and, winning an Olympic Games medal, whatever it is, the only route to get to here is to go through many failures. Like this. So every person who's achieved success has a whole bunch of failures in the past. You take somebody, like the best. You take Michael Jordan of basketball, and in order to become a great shooter, in order to become a 6-time championship-winning basketball player, and potentially, in the argument for being the greatest of all time, he would have had to miss tens of thousands, if not maybe hundreds of thousands of shots in practice. He would have had to fail so many times. He'd have lost so many games over the course of his career, been dropped from teams when he was younger, all sorts of failures, and had to keep going through all those failures in order to get to success. So when you fail, realize that failure is part of the journey. Failure is an important prerequisite for the success that you're looking for. And the faster you can fail, the more failures you can have, the quicker you're going to get to the success that you want. And with the success, so if you reframe a failure as being a good thing, immediately that increases your confidence, because your confidence is a kind of linked to your risk of failure and your fear of failure. And if you see failure as a success, if you see failure as a good thing because it's leading to your success, how can you go wrong? Okay, so the next point here is get comfortable with risk. So this kind of leads on from the last point. You can't ever achieve anything in life or get out of your comfort zone and increase your confidence without taking risks. So what I'm saying is regularly take risks. Now, I don't mean, just go out gambling or start crossing the road without looking or taking drugs or doing something kind of stupid. What I'm talking about is taking intentional, assessed risks that are fatal and are reversible. So we put non-fatal, and I don't mean just that you'll die, but I mean a risk that might, harm somebody permanently, or might lead to something that's not reversible or not treatable. Something where risk with your career where that you can't kind of step back and say you take a risk and decide to go for a new job, but you can always quit that job and go and do a different job. So it's not a fatal thing. But being able to take risks and being comfortable with risks massively increases your confidence. So with this, start small. So an example of this might be you're nervous talking to strangers. Well, next time you go into a shop, say you're just at the checkout of the supermarket, instead of going to self-checkout, go to the checkout with the cashier on it, and then strike up a very simple conversation with that person. Just mention the weather, ask them, how they're doing that day. Has it been busy in the shop? How are they feeling? Whatever it is, just something very simple. It's a risk because your fear might be that they turn around and say, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you. I don't like you. But very unlikely to happen, for one. Even if that does happen, that'll take away your fear, because the worst case scenario has happened. They've told you to go away, but you're still fine. You're still alive. You've still got your shopping, and it's not a big deal. So start small, taking these tiny risks, and building your tolerance, and be willing to fail. So imagine you're trying to meet new friends, you're trying to meet a partner, whatever it is, and but you're just anxious and nervous around people. You're not confident in talking to people. Start really small, practicing just striking up conversations with people you're going to be talking to anyway, having transactions at like cashiers or people in coffee shops, whatever it is. And be willing to fail if those things go wrong. It's okay. That's a learning opportunity. That's a step on the ladder. And your risk tolerance is kind of related to your confidence. So if you go into a situation and you tolerate the risk because you say, I can just go in there, do what I want to do, what I think is right, and the the options are either kind of things go well or things go badly. But either way, you're comfortable with that risk. You don't mind the fact that it could go badly, and you know that if it goes badly, that's another step towards success. This way, you're in a win-win situation. There's no reason to be unconfident. So the next one is repeated action. And this is a bit like exposure therapy. So what you're doing is discomfort. So somewhere where you're not so confident, then you have a result. Then you have reflection. Then you have learning. You know, it didn't go so badly. I'm actually getting better. I'm becoming more competent. And as a result, what happens is your comfort zone, it starts to increase. You get a bigger and bigger comfort zone over time. And this is the same as increasing your confidence. Next thing to talk about is the stages of confidence. So the first stage is you're unconfident. And so you can imagine this, a good analogy for this is a child learning to walk for the first time. When they're first, when they're first standing up, holding on to something, their legs are wobbling, they're looking nervous, they're looking over at their parents, they're not confident with that activity. Then what happens is that child attempts it again and again and again, goes through this repeated action of pushing themselves in this nervous situation. And then they're kind of standing without holding on to something and they're wobbling around and they're nervous. And over time, they keep having a result. They fall down or they fall forward, fall backwards, fall sideways. They reflect on it. They learn from it. They learn to adjust their body position. They get better and better at it, more and more confident, until eventually they're confident. So then they're sort of 2-3 years old. They're really confident. They're kind of running down the street. They're running around the garden. They're running in fields, whatever it is. But occasionally they do trip over and that makes them sad. And then, by the time they're, say, 15, they don't even think about it. They're kind of subconscious. They don't even, there's not even a recollection of, whether it's something to be confident about or not. They just assume, it's just kind of assumed that they'll be good at it. If you ask a 15-year-old, assuming they're not a wheelchair user or have some other disability, but you ask them, just walk across the room for me, they're not going to be saying, I'm a bit nervous doing that. Otherwise healthy 15-year-old will just be able to do that without thinking about it. Same is true when I was training as a GP, training as a doctor. When I first started seeing patients, I was very uncomfortable and unconfident about it. I wasn't sure that I was going to make a fool of myself. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to say the right things. And then I just kept doing it over and over again out of my comfort zone and learning from the results. I became more competent. I learned that if things go badly, I'll still survive. Kept trying, and then I became confident. But when I first qualified as a GP, although I developed quite good confidence, on my journey into work, I'd still be thinking, I hope something doesn't come in today, or I'm uncomfortable. Something might come in where I'm not sure how to manage it. Still a bit questioning, even though I was confident. Now I drive into work, I'm, subconsciously confident. I don't even think about it, just thinking about something else. Call the patient in, don't even think about being nervous, because I've been through so many actions of doing that thing and proven to myself, even if things go horribly wrong, I'm still going to manage. Okay, on to the next thing, which is we need some tactics for what to do for an event. So we're talking about, like, for example, an exam or a public speaking event. You have to give a presentation. You have to go through an exam that's going to make you, you need to be confident for. You've got a job interview. You're going on a date with somebody and you want to impress them. Whatever it is, you're going to meet some new people. any situation where you need to be confident and you're unsure, here are the tactics to boost your confidence for that specific event. So one is preparation and practice. So if you can prepare and practice as specifically as possible to that event. So for example, if you're giving a presentation, make the presentation, practice on your own in your room, just going through all the slides and saying what you're going to say. Then get some friends together, your partner, whoever it is, present it to them. Then maybe present it to a slightly bigger audience where it's still not, it's not that important, it's low stakes. And you prepare and practice as many times as you can. And then when you're in the actual event, the closer you've practiced to that exact scenario, the easier it's going to be and the more confident you'll be. So that's true of exams, any situation really. If you've got, say, a date coming up and you want to be confident with that person, the more you can practice just being confident with other people, with friends, with strangers, that's going to carry over into being confident with that person. Next thing is to adopt confident body language. If you're questioning what this means, next time you see somebody that you intuitively think looks very confident, look at their body language. See what they're doing. Are they kind of closed off with their head down and not making eye contact? Or do they have a kind of open, upright posture, open hands, open body, eye contact? Are they speaking clearly? Not too fast, very articulating in themselves, and they believe that what they have to say is of value. All these things are confident body languages. And if you feel unconfident, but you adopt these confident body languages, and you do these things that confident people do, there'll be a mismatch between how you feel, feeling unconfident, and the body language that you have, which is confidence. And your body and your brain doesn't like to have that mismatch between how you feel and your body language. So what's it going to do? It's going to try and change how you feel or change your body language. But if you consciously make sure you've got positive, strong, confident body language, and you don't give into it, you keep going with that body language, your brain will say, well, I can't change the body language. I'll have to change how you feel. And so the body language actually leads to greater confidence on the inside. That's a really good tip for you. So if you're in an exam, like an OSCE exam, if you're a medical student, before all my OSCEs, I was really conscious to have confident body language and sustain that even when I felt unconfident inside. The consequence of that is I started to feel confident inside. So that's a really important thing. If you adopt and give into the unconfident body language and you hide away, that will reinforce the unconfident feeling inside you. And the other thing you can do is, play a character. So this is like almost just putting on a performance. You pretend to be somebody else. Now, this is a tactic. This is kind of fake it till you make it. But it does have some value. So if you're going for a job interview or you're going for an exam, you kind of want to play a character who's confident and is good for that role, and articulates themselves well. Pretend to be somebody that you want to be, that you're aspiring to be this confident person. And this might involve how you kind of dress, your body language, what you say. So essentially you're kind of walking and talking like this confident character that you're playing. And the consequence of that is other people will feel that you're confident. And the more you play that character, the more you become that character. And the final thing I would mention is just the people in your life who can affect your confidence. So try to cut down on the negative people. So there'll be, everybody's got people in their life that will have a negative and positive effect on them. Often there's somebody in your life or several people in your life that kind of have a reinforcing uh, reinforcing effect on your negative beliefs about your own confidence. And so try to cut back on them, not necessarily, cut them out of your life, although that's easy to do. Sometimes you've got somebody who's really negative and doesn't provide anything positive to you. Try and cut them out of your life completely. Or just, cut back on how much you listen to them. You got to realize that often this is a reflection of them on the inside. So however critical that person is of you, they might point the finger and say, you've never been a confident person. You're no good at this thing. You can't do public speaking. Just be wary that that person is probably, as much as they're pointing the finger at you, they're probably pointing the finger 10 times that bad back at themselves and twice as hard on themselves as they are on you. Just knowing that can sometimes help, to not take them as seriously, not kind of give them as much, not have them affect you as much as they do. Then the other aspect is increase positive people. If you've got those people in your life who are just really positive, really kind of can do, you see them and you think, this person is not so good at these things, but they just do them anyway. They're just kind of confident, even though they're not that good at that skill. Those people are great influences. You can adopt more of that stuff. You don't have to be amazing at something to be confident at it. And just being around people who are confident and will just try things and not be afraid, even in situations where they're not so good at things, they still confidently go ahead with them. Those people are great influences. The other thing is just to try to be one of these positive people. So encourage others. If somebody's trying something and you can see that they're unconfident and nervous about it, encourage them. Having said that, no amount of encouragement or positive telling somebody about something is going to be better than action. So taking action and going through this cycle of, going in your discomfort zone, having the result, reflecting and learning, nothing can beat taking action and going through this cycle. And if you're trying to encourage somebody to build their confidence, the thing to do is to let them fail. If they're going to do something, be okay with them taking risks, them taking action, them failing at something. That's okay. That's a good thing. Failure is good. It teaches you survive. You're okay. You can take risks. You can keep pushing yourself in your discomfort zone. And don't try to kind of pad other people and protect them from failure or protect them from something hard happening. In fact, that can actually have the reverse effect and reduce their confidence. So I hope that video was helpful. If you want to have a copy of these notes as a kind of really much nicer drawn version of these notes, I will add them to the Zero to Finals Patreon, and there's a link in the description to that. And I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.